Hi everyone, it's Michelle. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. Thank you for being here in my little corner of the internet. I hope you enjoy what I have to offer. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back over and over. I really love that you are here. I wanted to do a little page today using some of the older supplies. So Marlene released a big paper elements book in January, I think, of 2025. And it had all these larger elements, color wheels and big bold faces. And it had some art supplies in there, which I really, really love, but I've never used them. So I thought today I would give it a bash. So I took out a couple of elements that I really loved. I did want to use this color wheel, and I grabbed out some of the other elements like the picture of the glue and the pencil and an eraser. And what I'm doing here is I'm just gluing them all together to make a cluster. Because obviously while I'm putting the color on the page, I would like to be able to bring this cluster back onto the page and off again. And obviously that would be incredibly time consuming if I had to take every little piece individually on and off the page all the time. So my solution to that is to just glue them all together, and then it's one big element. I'm also quickly fussy cutting some of the bits that weren't die cut. I mean, they are die cut, and they don't have a white border, so they do blend in at the end, but sometimes that little extra bit of border bugs me a little bit. So I just trimmed some of those off and just made some adjustments to the little circly bits that I had there. I had the idea of making a rainbow across the page, and I realize now that my rainbow is the wrong way around. I should have started with the red on the left side, but I didn't. I started on the right, so here we are. It's still a rainbow. It still looks cute. I'm using Marlene's watercolor paint, and I'm just going through the rainbow colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple and pink. And I'm just making these random blobs across the page. Some of them I am connecting to the top, and some of them I'm not. And I'm really just trying to keep this page looking quite arty and like there was just kind of a color explosion across the page. For the second layer of paint, because obviously when the watercolors dry, they do dry quite light. So I am going in with a second layer, and that second layer I'm also making drips come down the page. And I am giving it a quick dry in between the colors, just to make sure that when I put the next color down, that the drops don't go further than I want them, because I didn't want all of the drops to go right down the page and off the page. I did want some of the drops to stop kind of midway, so you could see that it's actually a drippy drop that's there. I'm going through doing all of the colors, and here and there I'm doing a little bit of splatter as well. And I'm just really trying to create a messy, painterly looking page. So there is a lot of repetition going on here, and a lot of drying and dripping and splattering. It did take a little while to get done, but it's such a I don't want to say meditative process, but it doesn't take a lot of brain work to do that. So this process is actually quite relaxing, because it's just repeating the same thing over and over again. And now I'm going in with some splatters, and then I will go in and give my page a good dry. I did pause the video over there just because you don't want to see paint dry. From the previous page that I did at the back of this, there was some paint that spilled over, so I just covered up with a thick layer of gesso on my finger, just to hide that big blob of purple that I had there. And now I wanted to do some tone-on-tone stamping. So I don't own a lot of colors ink in like archival ink or stays on ink. So I just got my distress inks out, and I'm just matching the colors somewhat and just doing some tone-on-tone stamping here. I'm using different stamp set or a different stamp for each section, just so it doesn't look too, the same. I can't remember the colors of these paints, I'm sorry. I was okay with using the distress inks for this because I knew I wasn't going to put anything else wet over the top of this. And in fact, I did try and wet it to make it a little less in your face, but it didn't work. So for the purple one there, the color that I have is more of a reddish kind of purple. And I knew it was going to be very, very dark on that purple section. So all I did there is I did one, I stamped into the ink pad, and then I stamped off that first a bit of ink, and then I went onto my page, just so it's more of a ghost stamping than a proper dark stamp. Now I'm grabbing out all of the different little circles, and at first I thought I would just put them down randomly, but then I decided I will also do tone on tone. So I'm just grabbing out a couple of these circles, again back into that Paper Elements book, and I'm just looking for green circles to put in the green bits, blue circles to put in the blue bits, and so on. This background paper in this book was great actually because it had texture on, so sometimes I also just cut some circles from the actual background paper when I couldn't find a circle that matched the color there. And that worked out well for me. And I definitely did an orange one, so you'll see I'll cut into that paper and get a pink one, and I think I do the same and get an orange one. Sorry, it's a little bit in the corner there, but I'm sure you get the picture. I also used some of the eggs that were in that book because I couldn't find the right colored circles, so I just cut some circles with those eggs. A little bit of shuffling about here and there with those circles to get them where I wanted them, and more trimming out some more circles, and that's kind of what it will look like, what the placement will be in the end. Okay, so once I was happy with that, I'm quickly just going to glue all of these elements onto the page. I try not to faff about too much when it comes to sticking things onto my page. I find the moment I start thinking, is it right here? Does it look good there? Maybe a little to the left, little to the right, little higher, little lower. Then I find that I get very hesitant to stick it down, and I kind of second guess myself. So I normally don't think about it too much. I just glue the things down and work with what I've got in the end to make it work. I'm a firm believer that everything is fixable. So yeah, I just kind of go with the flow and fix whatever I need to when I need to. I did want to ground all of these floating elements. I wanted to kind of make it feel a bit like an abstract desk. So that's why I've got these scallopy bits and Marlene's washi tape here, because I wanted to just make sure I grounded all these elements, because it had that little jar there, And although this one has flowers, it does remind me of my dirty paint water jar. And then obviously all of the supplies that are there, the scissors and the eraser. I always have a pair of scissors floating around on my desk, and there would inevitably be a pencil and glue. So it was kind of an abstract desk. Yeah, kind of. That's sort of what I felt like doing. And now I'm going to go around the edges of all of my goodies just to make them pop out the background. So you'll see on this color wheel, I found a green splatter, and it matched perfectly with the greens, the greens that are on this color wheel. So I thought, okay, well, this color wheel is kind of leaking its color all over the show. So when I did the outline of it, I didn't outline the whole circle. I outlined the circle and then the color splat. So it looks like one piece. The same with, there's a little bit of splatter at the bottom there that's pink. And I did the same thing on the smaller one on the side here. Just so it looks like one thing and not like the splatter is peeping out from behind, but it's actually part of that color wheel. I hope that made sense. I'm not sure if it did. Anyway, I outlined all of my little circles, and now I'm going to draw in some extra black ones. I really, really love black and white elements on my page. Normally it would be in the form of stripes or dots. Yeah, it just makes me so happy. So I've got these black circles with white dots on them, and then I will go into my little paper punched stash and find the tiniest black little circles. It took ages to find them because I've actually used most of them up. So I need to just replenish my stash again with some bigger ones and smaller ones and different colored ones. I do love adding these to my pages. They just add such a fun little extra little element that you would not normally expect. I use my diamond dotting tool for that, just to pick them up. I find that's the easiest way for me to get them up and going. And I'm just going to draw in a couple of extra circles. And I was quite happy with that. And then, of course, I will go in and do a shadow around some of these elements. So I'm using my Stabilo All pencil, just putting some down right against my elements, and then I will water it down with my wet brush. I'm not going around all of these elements around the whole element on all of them. I'm kind of thinking that the light is coming in from the top left corner, so my shadows would be at the bottom right. And I am also thinking about things that are stacked on top of each other. So like the glue is stacked on top of the scissors and the color wheel. So I wanted to make sure that that shadow extended over both those elements. And now I will go in with a little bit of white highlights with my paint pen. And I really, really love the way this page turned out. It's a little bit unusual for me in the way that the composition is, but I had so much fun making it. And Marlene's elements really help to make things pull together really quickly. So if you have older supplies, I want to encourage you to go back into your stash, see what you can use, see how you can combine them with newer releases, because you can really always find a use for all of your supplies, really. So I found this quote that says, "Art supply junkie," and I feel like it's true for me. And at first I wanted to stamp out the art and then just do the supply junkie, but I wasn't quite sure how I would make it work. So in the end, I just stamped out the art on the one page, and then on the other side I did art supply junkie. I'm just touching up some of the bits where the stamping wasn't quite so clear, and then a little doodly border around the quote. Okay, then I wanted a little 3D element, and I went through my little stash, and then I decided, nope, I will go with a paintbrush. So I found this paintbrush, which I never use, and it's like a cheap one for kids with a plastic handle. So I just trimmed that off quickly, and now I'm going to glue it down. Tried with normal glue for some reason and quickly realized that's not going to work. So I grabbed out the glue gun, and while I'm waiting for that glue gun to heat up, I'm just filling in those little circly bits that I did just with the nib of my paint straight from the tube. I just used the lace, which is Marlene's white paint, and then I'm going to glue down that little paintbrush when I eventually could get the glue gun to work. It took ages to warm up, but we got there in the end. Nice little dollop of glue eventually. It was a struggle. And I'm just fixing up the edges there, just kind of bringing it over the that paintbrush. And then I'm just going to faff a little bit more to get all of the fiddly bits stuck on. And then when I pulled my tape off the back, it lifted the flower, so I had to heat it up properly and then glue that flower back in again. All right, that is it from me. Thank you so much for being here. Let me know if you return to your older stash often, and please like, subscribe if you have not done so, and I will be back with another video soon. Okay, bye.